welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to your daily Manchester United news roundup. In today's video, we'll be talking about another sacking incoming at United, pretty much confirmed. We're going to talk about how Ratcliffe has questioned the Glazers and many changes that will be happening at the club, around the staff, around the recruitment, around sort of everything in terms of changing the structure of United. We've got a big injury boost with Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka and Onana expected to play in that Everton game. We're going to talk about why Luke Shaw's return is really important to Ten Hag's system, structure. Then we're also going to link it to why Martinez's return, in my opinion, will be the most important still. And then we've got Marcus Leonardo to United wanting the January move. Could United put in a move for Marcus Leonardo with January? And could Varane be leaving in January? Varane and Ten Hag, apparently their relationship is on strings. I don't know what to believe with that story, but we'll get into that at the end. So, what was said today? We got some pretty good news from Luckhurst. Luckhurst dropping good news, not dressing room sources said this. What can I say? It was said Manchester United are planning to replace John Murtough as football director. A well-placed source says Murtough is definitely going. So we've got a few people coming out saying Murtough is definitely going. Murtough gone. Paul Mitchell in. Sporting director, please, bish bash bosh, needs to happen 10 years ago would be brilliant. But it was also said by Luckhurst that Ratcliffe has held virtual meetings with Joel Glazer about probable personal changes at United. It's understood more changes are planned behind the scenes, with the Ineos delegation unimpressed by other departmental strategies. So this isn't just Arnold and Murtough being sacked with Paul Mitchell Blanc coming in. This is Harrison being sacked. This is Darren Fletcher being sacked. This is the whole recruitment and scouting network being sacked. This is the medical staff being sacked. This is going to be like an overhaul of 10, 11 players. And even Fabrizio Romano said himself, the January transfer window could be quiet at United because there's going to be so many changes happening at the top of Manchester United going on. It was said that Blanc to United is done and he will replace Richard Arnold, but obviously that can't be confirmed and announced until the takeover is announced, but we basically know that that is done by multiple sources. And it was also said by Reluctant Nico, who is a bit of a, not the most reliable source, but it just linked to things that we've been saying, said that United hired a Los Angeles-based agency Pace to screen candidates for an emerging talent scout position. So United are looking at people to look for emerging talent in the scouting position and stuff as well. So I believe that's probably true. It links to everything going along. And then Fabrizio Romano basically said a lot of changes are going to happen on the board higher up at United. It's not just going to be like Arnold and Murtough being sacked. There's going to be a lot of changes. Jim Ratcliffe's obviously very unhappy with the structure of United and how it is, and had a lot of meetings with Joel Glazer being like, we need to change this, we need to change that. And that might be the priority ahead of the January window. But the one good thing about January is hopefully we don't pick up any more injuries, because Højlund is reportedly injured. But Shaw is expected to be back. Wan-Bissaka is expected to be back. Onana is expected to be back for the Everton game. We've got players like Malacia and Amad Diallo that are very close to return. And then Martinez and Casemiro expected back around Christmas time. So hopefully by the time we go into January, we'll be in a much better position. But it was said by TalkSport that Luke Shaw is expected to make a return against Everton next Sunday. And Wan-Bissaka could also be back. Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka on as the fullbacks. It will make such a boost to us, and I'm going to get into that now. Ethan said this. I personally think that Lisandro Martinez's return will be the most important, but he said Luke Shaw's would. He said Lisandro Martinez will be vital return, but Luke Shaw has been a bigger loss. A player that provides central and wide progression, strikes up cohesive left half space dynamics with Rashford, a strong ball carrier over distance to offer us more dynamism in the way we attack. Crucial. And then Jack mentioned how everything points to Lisandro Martinez being a centre-back who shifts to central centre-back when we build up in a 3, and left centre-back when we build up in a 2, as he did at Ajax. And I think, Luke Shaw's going to be really important for Ten Hag, and then eventually you could bring in Todibo right centre-back, Luke Shaw left centre-back, Martinez central centre-back, Dalot or Wan-Bissaka would then push up into midfield. Probably Dalot would suit that system more. But people don't realise how big Luke Shaw's return is going to be. Now, I still think Martinez's return will be the most important, but it's about build-up. Man United's biggest problem this season has been build-up. We're having to go long ball FC. We can't sustain possession because we're not good at build-up. We don't have the centre-back profiles, which was so important last season. Shaw and Martinez last season did the build-up, so we weren't so reliant on the midfield to actually build up the ball, and we don't have those profiles in midfield, which is why Ten Hag has a big liking to Kobbie Mainoo. He doesn't want an out-and-out DM. He wants a sort of a defensive-minded midfielder who's good in possession and good at progressing the ball like Kobbie Mainoo, which is, I think, why he got a lot of time in pre-season. But we know that Luke Shaw and Martinez were so key to build up last season, and as soon as Martinez got injured, when things went down. But Luke Shaw can build up wide, he can build up centrally, he can play as that left centre back, which he partners Varane well. The reason Varane isn't playing is because him and Maguire don't work well together, whereas Luke Shaw and Varane could work well together, and we've seen that work well in big games. We've also just seen how much better Rashford is when Luke Shaw's there. So I think Luke Shaw's return will be massive, but I still think Martinez's return will be even better. And this is what I was talking about, how Martinez and Shaw influence build up. So Luke Shaw comes in, is that left centre back. Varane's there at central centre back, but Wan-Bissaka's there as the right centre back, and then that would allow Martinez to go into midfield, kind of like he did at Ajax, be that central centre back that then goes into that sort of 6 role and help him build up. Because Luke Shaw's pretty comfortable tucking in and assisting Casemiro. We saw that a little bit in pre-season, and I think why we struggle so much in build-up in midfield is because the plan was for Martinez and Luke Shaw to be so important in build-up during the pre-season. And I think Kobbie Mainoo, Martinez and Luke Shaw were key to that success in pre-season. I still think our best game this season, if we count pre-season, was against Arsenal, where we had Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez, Shaw, Mainoo, Mount, Bruno, and then we would have had Sancho. But idiot. I think United should bring in Todibo. They should bring in Nico Williams. We should maybe bring in someone like a Nashio. So if we do lose Martinez, we've got another player that's good in build-up. And I think we need to bring in a proper 6, because I think we're too reliant on Kobbie Mainoo at such a young age. And then potentially someone like Marcos Leonardo, a young striker, I think is what United need to do. But continuing on, let's get into the transfer news. So what's said, Brazilian striker linked with United is ready for Europe move. Manchester United have been linked with Marcos Leonardo for over a year now. They've been scouting this guy, had an interest in this guy for over a year. He's going to be valued at between 20 to 25 million pounds, which is seen as somewhat affordable. If something's going to happen in January, I don't see us spending more than 30 million pounds on a player. I think still it might be reliant on if we get funds for Sancho, if we get funds for Donny, if we get funds for Martial. I don't know how much So Jim's going to be able to invest. It might be a little bit on the pricey side for United. I don't know what we're going to do in January, but this is a guy that we've been looking at, and we know that Man United ideally want a centre-back and a Sancho replacement and a striker in January. Romano sort of spoken about how United would like to sign 2 centre-backs in 2024, a striker, a right winger, and another midfield profile. Marcos Leonardo and Torrini are the strikers that are being linked with United for that role. He's a bit like Aguero, as I've always said. He's reportedly £25 million, which shouldn't be too much, and he's been absolutely unbelievable for Brazil, youngsters, and of course in the Brazilian league. He's also been compared to Sergio Aguero. I mean, I compared him to Sergio Aguero. I did a tweet when I watched a few games and a few highlights of him, and I said, I think it's like his physicality, the way he uses his body reminds me of Aguero. He's got that striker's instinct. He's very good at making runs in behind, which means he would suit Ten Hag's transition style of play. He's very good at linking up play, very intelligent, very much a good player that could be moulded. The question mark is, would Ten Hag want a more experienced striker coming in with Højlund lacking experience? Potentially. But his agent has said, but now the time has come for a transfer. He wants to have a European experience, and his time will come this winter. His agent is saying he will go to Europe this winter, and we know that Manchester United, Aston Villa, and Roma are among the 3 clubs most interested in the guy. I think he will choose Man United out of those 3 clubs, but the big question mark is, will United go for him? Will United spend the money on him? I think a lot of it is going to be dependent on how quick this Ratcliffe deal gets done and ratified. Is he going to be able to inject in January? Is stuff going to be done in January? Injuries, I think, would maybe trigger United to do a loan or bring in someone like Marcos Leonardo. And then, of course, how much money we get. Do we sell Sancho? I still think about Man United. I go all out for Nico Williams as well. So, what is the latest on Varane? Because it's been said that Varane's future at United looks pretty bleak. And I always think that Man United's best period was with Varane, Luke Shaw, and Martinez all playing as sort of the three at the back in progression, in possession, sort of that January-February period last year. They were so important. That trio was so important at United. And, Varane, I think, he's not playing much at the moment, but he was literally our best player this season, got injured, then Maguire started playing well. I think the Varane situation surely is just people overreacting. He's not played a few games, so people are overreacting that he's leaving. I think Varane is still one of our most important players. I think he does miss playing alongside Sandro Martinez. He looks a lot better alongside Martinez, but people are saying his future at the club looks pretty bleak. There's rumours of him falling out with Ten Hag. From what I've heard from The Athletic, Varane's a professional. He's not falling out with Ten Hag. He just knows that he's going to have to fight for his place with Maguire because he's seen as a right centre-back and so is Maguire. They're not seen as a pairing, and Ten Hag is thinking about pairings. So he wants to pair Varane with Martinez, but he wants to pair Maguire with Evans. That's sort of the way that Ten Hag sees it. That was sort of said by The Athletic, that there's no actual beef between Ten Hag and Varane and he's a professional, but then some sources saying no, Varane is really not happy. He can't understand why he's not playing, even if it's for tactical reasons. So What was said in terms of Varane and the latest on him? It was said by Dean Jones. I'll be surprised if there was that much of an exodus in January, just because there's not going to be much money flying around in the January window for that level of player. They're all players on big wages and some command hefty fees, so I find it difficult to believe they'll all go. But in terms of Varane's long-term future, it looks pretty bleak at United. On one hand, Varane is only 30 years of age, and you think it's a bit young for a demise. He made a senior debut when he was 17, and I think in football particularly, you talk about players having rings in their leg, and in that case, Varane has been playing at a top level for 13 years, so it's going to take his toll. Maybe he just can't handle it at this level anymore, given the amount of matches he's played at such a high standard across those years. It does seem a little bit like writing is on the wall for Varane in the long term, and it's the case of when Man United can find the right moment to get rid of him, said Dean Jones. I personally disagree. I personally think Varane is still at the top level. Obviously, he gets injured and he's unreliable, but before his injury back in October, Varane was our player of the season. He was like our only player that been good this season. Varane was good last season. Varane was good when he played this season. Varane then came on versus Copenhagen next to Maguire and looked a bit iffy. I don't think Varane's been poor this season. I don't think Varane's finished. I think Varane's got another 2 years in him at United. I really do. I think maybe if Saudi come in a big offer in January of or summer of 50 mil, maybe you go, you know what, we're not going to get this kind of money for Varane. This will allow us to get Todibo. Todibo's 22. Todibo is the future. He's much better in build-up, which is something we're struggling with because we've lost Martinez, and that's really showing. But I think people are sort of writing off Varane really early. As a good player in Varane, I'm sure he's going to make up the Ten Hag. I'm sure when Martinez is back and Shaw is back, Varane will be in there ahead of Maguire. I think Varane will have a good season for us, and I don't think that he's got beef with Ten Hag. Personally, I don't believe that Varane's going to leave and Varane's finished. I think Varane's a good player. I think he's a professional player, and I think he's going to be really important for us this season. But, let me know your thoughts. Anyway, please do hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.